Historical references that might make you feel good about the Texans' dream, plus the latest post-combine and a week away from free agency. Let's go inside the locker room now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game.
Combine is behind us. Free agency very much in front of us. A week to be exact. Combine concluded over the weekend. Many questions remain the same. Some change. We'll get into that. We'll also get into the historical reference for the dream that I'm pushing. I have a dream draft scenario that I am pushing. Does it feel realistic? Perhaps. There might also be another angle that we'll get into. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the video. The casino's popping. You can go play casino games. A lot of times you have to go to a casino. You have to get smoke blown on you and stuff. Nah. A lot of us have taken advantage of gambling and all the props that BetUS has, including what they had on the combine and they have for the draft. You never really have to put on hold your football betting at BetUS. You can also get a little casino action. Dollar, blackjack, whatever you want to get in, they got you. Gamble responsibly. Use the promo code YouTube150. 150% bonus up to $2,000. But I've enjoyed little blackjack every once in a while. You're sitting here doing some work. Little blackjack never hurt anyone. You're also not getting rushed. You're not getting cussed at by the blackjack players who can be pretty damn mean. So the Deebo Samuel trade is not going to happen with the Texans. My overall thoughts on that, or my overall feel, is it feels like the majority of the people are fine with Deebo Samuel not being a Houston Texan, and I can completely understand it. And it seems like the football nerds kind of feel like, from a Washington standpoint, it's kind of worth it. Like from a Washington standpoint, you got the quarterback on his rookie deal. He's going into his second year. You're paying Deebo Samuel $17 million for 1 year. You already have pretty good weapons. So it's not like you're completely like throwing all your chips on the table and saying, this guy's going to be one of the best players in the league. You already have guys that you feel good about, and you can be kind of reckless with money. I mean, you could do a lot worse. It's not like they gave the equivalent of Titus Howard an extension or Shaq Mason an extension. You could do a lot worse. You can be a little bit reckless with that money. It's a 1-year commitment. It's a 5th-round pick. Now, I've seen some people say that was probably even a little bit rich for Deebo Samuel, but for the most part, it feels like a lot of Texans fans have no problem with Deebo Samuel not coming here. Now, what does that mean for the Cooper Kupp situation? According to Albert Breer, and he is a must read on Monday. I like his stuff better than Peter King because it's a lot less sociopathic. It's just straight ball. It's not like long ass stories about stuff and self-serving and undertones and all that. Holier than thou. I didn't like Peter King. I wasn't a Peter King guy. Once upon a time, he was all right, but he's one of those media types that he forgot that people like to read Peter King because of football. Nobody wants to sit down and have a beer with Peter King. And if you do, all he's going to do is name drop football guys and make everything about him. God, why did I go on a Peter King tangent? What the hell is wrong with me?
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
But for real, he was a beating. We all know that. But I enjoy Albert Breer's Monday morning quarterback column. And he said, based on people that he's talked to, that the Cooper Kupp situation remains unchanged and that Cooper Kupp is still going to be available for trade. The Rams, obviously, they have Puka. Cooper could have joined Matthew Stafford at another destination. But as far as the trade thing, that's still going to be a thing. And Cooper Kupp could be traded. And quite frankly, if you told me of the Debo and Cup scenario. And I was open to both of them because I think the Texans just are that desperate at the wide receiver position. Now, they're not in the same position as Washington. That ship's kind of sailed. They're a year further along in the process. But the situation with Cooper Kupp, I see that working out better potentially for the Texans than Debo Samuel. Debo Samuel hasn't had a 1,000-yard season in 3 years. I think he averaged less than 4 yards a carry last year. This was Bill Barnwell. He was on Around the Horn. So I have no problem with the Debo thing. I think the Cooper Kupp thing would be more interesting. And I also think there's another thing that's being done with looking at durability concerns. And Cooper Kupp has been banged up. But Debo, I know it says that he's only missed a couple games the last few years. How many times do you watch San Francisco and he's banged up? He goes back to the locker room. He comes back to the sideline. And then all of a sudden he's banged up. It might not count as a missed game, but there were a lot of times where he was hobbled and kind of limped off of the field. Cooper Kupp, I think his missed games are kind of skewed a little bit. I'm not questioning the durability, but the year that Stafford missed 10 games and the Rams, the year after they won the Super Bowl, fell off, I kind of think they just kind of shut him down. So question marks about both. I think Cooper Kupp is a better football player at this point in his career than Debo Samuel is. But I don't know what the cost will be. I mean, 5th round pick. A lot of people kind of questioning the Stephon Diggs trade based on what went down with Debo. I do think that's interesting, but we'll see how all of that goes. The Debo situation was also bizarre because I thought he tweeted out that it's all love San Francisco and everybody knows it's all love. Well, during the season, you were bitching about not getting the ball. You were out of shape. And you were complaining a lot. So that's great that it's all love now. But in season, if there was love, you could have fooled a lot of people. And that was kind of something that some people would question with him coming to the Texans was, is Debo Samuel the right kind of guy? And how would DeMeco Ryans look at the way it ended in San Francisco with one of his mentors overseeing things? Would that work in Houston? Would Debo Samuel be in shape? I anticipate it's going to be a last-ditch effort to get some sort of contract. So he's going to be on his best behavior in Washington. But I think the concerns were valid. It is the Locker Room #1 source for Texans digital content. Another thing we're going to get into tonight, we're going to go through the history of the trade-up. The Texans are sitting in prime territory. I always like a little football history, especially when it's like in that millennial range, when it's in that like 90s millennial range, the history of the trade up, where the Texans are sitting. We'll get into that in a second. Some trips back in memory lane. Also saw that the Texans president, Mike Tomlin, he spoke on Texans radio on the Texans YouTube page. I checked it out. I got thoughts. You know, I always got thoughts on team presidents. Me and the POS, Jack Easterby, we had some issues. I've never really shied away from saying what I think about upper level suits. I'll let you know what I think of this Mike Tomlin guy, just based on a first reaction. Kind of trying to read between the lines of what the Texans are up to. I got along fine with Greg Grissom. I thought he was a good guy. The former president. I'll give my reactions to what I thought of Mike Tomlin when he sat down with John and Mark. Kind of trying to read between the lines there. So we'll get into to that. But let's talk about this dream scenario that I've I don't want to say poisoned my brain with, but a dream scenario of what I think the Texans, an opportunity that could present itself for the Texans, assuming that they don't absolutely love someone that's available at 25. And I think at 25, if Eamon Warry's there, I think you got to take him. I think you put together one of the best young secondaries that this league has seen in a long time. And I think you got to take advantage of that. I just don't think you can pass that up. I don't think the opportunity is going to present itself. It could. Stranger things have happened. But I think you got to take advantage of that. I know I've given D'Amico a hard time. I've called him D'Amique with no O. But if you can put that big, fast, athletic, ball hawking SOB in your secondary, and you can put him back there with Kalen Bullock, Derek Stingley, and Kamari Lassiter, I think you got to do it. I'm sold. I was in the room with the guy. I was fascinated. And that was before he went out there and did what he did at the combine. He broke the scale. And you saw students talking about it. The dude broke the scale. And that's the athletic scale. Very few people have done that. He's an absolute freak of nature. So if Eamon Warry's there, okay, O-line, wide receiver, we'll figure it out. But go ahead and get that done. And, some people will say, well, you need the D lineman. And I always kind of roll my eyes at, it starts up front. Blah, blah. Okay. It can start back there too. If you have a really good secondary, then you can make the D line better. And you already have Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Let's not be too crazy. You already have Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. You're paying Danielle Hunter $20+ million next year. You gave up damn near half a draft to go up and get Will Anderson. They're both Pro Bowl players, okay? It's not like you're thin on the D-line. I know it starts front, the D-line, and I like my D-lineman, as D'Amico Ryan says. Okay, let's put together an elite secondary. You got a hell of an opportunity to do that if that big bastard is there. And they're also good at picking DB. So if they decide not to, if he's there at 25 and they decide not to, I trust him. Now, if they draft an O-lineman instead, then I don't trust him. It's kind of a cancel out. That's a cancel out right there because I don't trust him with that. But if Eamon Warry's there, take the guy. Period, point blank, end of story. Take the guy and put together Blob, Baby Legion of Boom. T-shirts. Not going to trademark it, but someone will steal that idea. Blob. B-L-O-B. If that opportunity is there. If it's not, then I'm a big proponent of the trade back. And I think there's trade back opportunities, and I kind of talked about this earlier today, but I think what it looks like is either a Shedeur Sanders fall, which we've seen similar falls. We'll hear from them. We'll hear some of them in a second with the historical reference, or someone falling in love with Jackson Dart and Jackson Dart being there around 25. It's kind of a cockpit dream situation for the Texans. And for reference, a team has traded up to the number 25 overall pick in NFL history, and drafted a quarterback in round one. They've done it twice in the last 20 years. 20 years ago, 2005, the Jason Campbell trade, and then 15 years ago, the Tim Tebow trade. The trade up for Tim Tebow at 25 overall. And it more times than not, the team that trades back, they get a pretty decent deal out of it, especially if you're Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans and you feel good about drafting on day two. Sometimes you can get even more. Sometimes you leave with 2 1s in next year's draft if you play your cards right. But the Texans are kind of sitting in a gold mine. It might not just be about the quarterback, though. I'll tell you other scenarios that could happen. But first, let's just kind of go through the history of the trade up for the QB. This is just kind of a fun exercise. We're a week away from free agency. A lot of you guys, you like the history of football, especially from like the millennial and later point of view. So with where the Texans are sitting near the 20s, it's not rare at all that teams trade up to get quarterbacks in the first round. And a lot of that has to do with it's not a real top-heavy quarterback class. A lot of times it's teams that are drafting early in the second round that decided against a quarterback or missed out on a quarterback early, and they say they want to leave this thing with a draft, so they with a quarterback, so they trade up. And we'll start in 2003. 2003, as we go through the history of the trade up for the quarterback with where the Texans are sitting. Baltimore sent its second-round pick, so 41 overall, and a 2024 first-round pick to New England for number 19 overall to select Kyle Bowler. So they traded up 22 spots, and the Patriots got a first and a second round pick. Would you trade back 22 spots? So would you trade back from 25 to 47 in a hypothetical world and get a second round pick and a first next year? Depending on what's there. I would say you would probably say yes. I don't think the Patriots regret it. The next year, Buffalo, they send their second round pick, and this is courtesy of ESPN.com. They send a fourth round pick and a fifth and a first for the Cowboys' number 22 overall pick to pick J.P. Lossman. So you trade back 21 spots. So you get the second, you get the fourth, you get the fifth, and you get the first. Quarterbacks make teams do crazy things. That's why the Texans, when they wanted CJ and Will, they took CJ first, because the price to trade up and get CJ at 3 overall would have been more expensive. 2005. We already talked about this. Washington sends its third round pick, a first, and a fourth to Denver for the Broncos' first round pick to select Jason Campbell. So you had to go all the way back to the third, but you got an extra day 2. You got a fourth, so that would be an extra day 3 in this format. And then you got a first next year. Would you do that? I'm telling you, the quarterback price is pretty high. 2007, we all remember Brady Quinn. Dude spent a lot of time on his hair. He spent even more time in the war room. 2007, Brady Quinn getting a lot of hype. This would be kind of a Shedeur Sanders-like fall. Cleveland trades its second round pick, number 36 overall, and a first to the Cowboys for a first. So trade back 14 spots and get an extra first the next year. From 25 to, say, 39, and you get an extra first next year. And they get the quarterback that they like. Would you do that? 2008. Joe Flacco, is he elite? Before that debate began, the Texans were actually part of a trade. So they've been in this situation. This time they had the number 26 overall pick. In exchange for that 26th overall pick, the Texans, they got a third round pick, a 6th round pick. No, they got a first. They traded back just 8 spots, and they got the first, the 6th, and the 3rd. So you got a first, the 6th, and the 3rd just to trade back 8 spots. Would you do that? Would you trade back 8 for an extra 3rd and a 6th? So you would have 4 picks on day 2, and then you would have the 6th. That was the last time the Texans did that. I think this is a good exercise just to kind of see what the history of this is like. 2009, Tampa Bay, the Josh Freeman deal, 2009. First round pick and a 6th round pick to Cleveland for the Browns' first round pick to select Josh Freeman. Would you do that? 2010, Denver trades a 2nd round pick, so 43 overall, a 3rd round pick and a 4th pick to Baltimore for their first round pick. So this would be the Texans. They're sitting at 25. So you would trade back 18 spots and you would get an extra 3rd and a 4th. This is that's a dream realistic trade right there. Because then you're sitting there where you got 2 second round picks, you got 2 third round picks, and you got 2 4th round picks. This is about what the new scale would be. Because I don't think the Texans will want to trade just completely out of this draft. But if you can get their 2nd, 3rd, and a 4th to trade back 18 spots so someone can take Jackson Dart, that's a dream scenario. That's a very realistic trade. That's a really, really good trade. Then there's the Teddy Bridgewater trade. A lot of people wanted the Texans to get him. Minnesota sends a second and a fourth to Seattle for their first. So you trade back 8 spots and you get a fourth. Trade back 8, get a fourth. That's the final pick of the first round. So you're not as there. But would you trade back 8 spots for a fourth? That one would be a little bit more risky, especially considering it wouldn't be the back end of the round. Then you have the man with the sunglasses in the bowling alley, Paxton Lynch, 2016. Denver trades up 5 spots, and they give Seattle a 3rd round pick in exchange. So you trade back 5. So let's say the Texans are at 25, they trade back 30, and they get an extra 3rd. 3 day 2 picks right there in the running back, maybe like a luxury type of pick. The Lamar Jackson trade with the Eagles, 2018. And then perhaps the best example, this was 2020. This is the best example of a team actually doing good with the quarterback. Some of these quarterbacks that we've thrown out have been kind of crappy. 2020, Green Bay sends its 1st round pick, number 30, in a 4th to Miami for pick 26. So they traded up 4 spots. And all they had to give up was a 4th round pick to go up there and get Jordan Love while they had Aaron Rodgers. Pretty good deal. Pretty good stuff. From a Texans perspective, I think it makes sense. If you can get extra day 2 picks and you like somebody, but you don't love somebody, I don't find anything too bad with it. I look, they got 6 picks right now. And we've kind of transitioned from the salary cap space situation to where they got to hit draft picks at this point. Because it's not just the CJ Stroud contract. That's the other unique spot that the Texans are in. We talk about quarterback on his rookie deal, and I say I beat it to death. Because I think that clock starts ticking the second that you realize that you have a quarterback that at the very bare minimum is going to warrant a second contract. We don't have to have a pissing match. We don't have to have like some sort of back and forth about how elite he is. I think even like the biggest CJ Stroud skeptic can agree he's at least the Trevor Lawrence, Derek Carr type where regardless of how you feel about him, whether he's elite or not, you're going to give him a second contract. Now, when a lot of teams talk about that though, and this is something that Washington isn't going to have to deal with. This is something that most teams don't have to deal with. In that exact same draft, they selected an edge guy that is on a trajectory to being one of the best young edge guys in the league, in Will Anderson. So not only are you going to have to pay a quarterback elite bread, you're going to have to pay an edge guy elite bread. That's a lot of money. That's damn near half your cap. You're going to be paying a guy top 5 money, even if he's not a top 5 quarterback. We know how the market works. And hopefully he emerges to where there's like some hope for that. I'm not dismissing it. I'm just saying no matter what, that's what's going to happen. You're going to be paying him and you're going to be paying the edge guy. So you better start hitting on draft picks. Washington doesn't have to worry about that yet. And very few teams do. We don't see very many scenarios where someone has 2 picks in the top 5 and both of them hit. Oh, and both of them are premium positions where the guys just completely break bread. So that's something they're going to have to figure out. And that's where some of the other trade scenarios are coming out. I saw Zerline's mock draft. He had the Texans trading up and getting Kelvin Banks out of Texas. And he said he plays guard, and then he moves over to tackle. Some people will say, well, why would you need him to play tackle? Laramie Tunsil's there. Okay. Laramie Tunsil, first of all, I don't know if he's an iron sharpens iron swarm type of guy. But he's going to get paid, and he's going to be approaching the back end of his career. Still be a good player. But you're going to have to cut your losses somewhere. So if you can find a young tackle that's capable of filling in for Tunsil, then maybe you can make it happen. Now, some will say, why would you do that? Well, where else are you trimming the money? Will Anderson's going to be here. CJ Stroud's going to be here. Where else are you trimming the money? You're going to have to figure it out somewhere. Derek Stingley is going to be one of the highest paid corners in the league. You're going to have to pay Kamari Lassiter, I think. Kalen Bullock. I mean, it would be a dream scenario. Does that mean he's going to be as good as Laremy Tunsil? Probably not. But how many times have the Chiefs had to get rid of a player and they have to draft well? That's what the Texans will have to do. You'll have to draft well. So the cost of trading up, yeah, it might give you less draft picks this year with Zerline's hypothetical, and he's not making predictions. He's just showing paths and trying to lay out scenarios. It's not like some sort of he's not like calling a shot or anything like that. But where exactly is the money gonna go to? Where's it gonna go to? Or where's it gonna come from, I should say? So that would be a dream scenario if that did happen. And maybe something happens. The cap is going to go up. Okay, so is his salary. So are the salaries. Like if you have a guy who's going to demand top 3 money at his position, you think the cap's just going to go up and he's going to say, "All right, well, I'll take what I was making." No, he's going to demand more money. It goes up for everybody. It's not just a unique thing. The cap's going to go up, but so are the salaries. It's still going to be as large of a chunk of the pie. The contracts are going to be proportional to the cap. Laremy Tunsil, there's a reason Laremy Tunsil goes around saying 2-time highest paid offensive lineman of all time. That's going to be what he's shooting for in 2 years. They're going to have to say, if the Texans are a good organization, if they're a good organization, they're going to have to say goodbye to Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber players more times than not in the offseason. That's just how it works. That's what happens. And they're going to have to make do if they're going to be at the top end of that thing. Buffalo had to do it this year. Kansas City has to do it every year. Philadelphia's going to have to do it. It's just where it's going to be. And if you can find someone who you think can be a left tackle, and left tackles, I mean, you're talking $25, $30 million. If you can get a guy on a rookie deal on that, more power to you. That's the Zerline plan. And that's a scenario where trading up makes sense. Some people will say, well, let's trade up and get Colston Loveland. I'm not opposed to getting an elite tight end, especially if he's elite. But if you're able to trade up for a left tackle, it doesn't just help you this year, assuming that you can plug him in at guard, but it helps you next year when you're going to have to make these tough situations. If you can prepare for financial obstacles, then you're in better position. I mean, that's what they did with Blake Fisher. We don't know if Blake Fisher's good or not. They think he is, and we'll see. But if you can proactively prepare to where it doesn't sneak up on you, then more power to you. But if you think that Laremy Tunsil is going to be the highest paid offensive lineman in the league in 2 years, then do that math for me. Do that math for me. All right, Derek Stingley, what's he making? Okay. CJ Stroud, what's he making? Okay. Will Anderson, what's he making? Okay. It's hard to imagine a team having the highest paid left tackle, quarterback, and that's just what the market's going to be with CJ. It's about, there was a time where Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, was the highest paid quarterback in the league. Derek Carr, Trevor Lawrence, like it kind of happened. Dak Prescott, like that's just kind of how the quarterback situation happens. He has David Mulligetta. We know that. So tell me a scenario where you have the highest paid left tackle, the highest paid corner, one of the highest paid edge guys, and one of the highest paid quarterbacks. Which one of those would you have the easiest time saying goodbye to? Got to think. And that's where the Banks conversation comes in, and that's why Zerline throws it out there. It's going to happen eventually. They've been in a luxurious spot. That luxury is going to die down, and they're gonna have to be a lot smarter with how they spend the cap money in the cap, on the players, etc. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the video. BetUS, they got the casino popping. You can bet on who you think is going to go in the first round. Do you think Jackson Dart goes in the first round? Does that would kind of help the Texans? You can bet on that. Right now, there's a lot of buzz with Jackson Dart. Who knows? There was buzz with Will Levis. It's lying season. But there is some irony that the quarterback could impact the Texans. There's another position that I think we need to keep an eye on as well that could impact the Texans. We'll also react to what the new president had to say in a sec. But right now, we're talking about the possibility of finding a Laramie Tunsil replacement before the Bills go down, or the Bills are due. Blue Boy 9 says, I'm glad we came back full circle. O-line needs to be the main priority. It's not time to get cute in the draft. I don't know what that means. I don't know what is cute. Like, is drafting a wide receiver to add to the weakest wide receiver room in the league, is that cute? Is drafting a tight end that can help your wide receiver and offensive line, is that cute? Is drafting the best safety that can make you the best young secondary that the league has seen in a long time, assuming that he falls, is that cute? I don't know. What is cute? Like, is it cute because they're not fat and offensive linemen? Like, I don't get what would cute be in the draft? What is cute? So was Kenyon Green, was Kenyon Green a non-cute pick? Did you like that? Did you like the Kenyon Green pick? Well, I don't know what's cute. I'm confused by that. Because I think there can be cute things. I don't know what's cute. It's having the best secondary in the league. Cute. Bakari says, draft the best player available. Blue Boy says, wide receiver would be cute. What's cute? What's cute about that? What's cute about that? You want to roll out there with John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson, and Nico Collins? Wide receivers can't get open. Like, if the wide receivers can get open quicker, the offensive line doesn't have to do as much. Like, when the Texans had a full strength wide receiver group, I know it was never completely humming.
Damn it, Bobby.
But the offensive line looked a little bit better because you had wide receivers. Wide receiver is one of the most important positions in the NFL, especially if you can find wide receivers on the cheap. There's nothing cheap. There's nothing cute about drafting a wide receiver. Nothing cute about that at all. There's nothing cute about that. Green was the Caserio era, my friend Bakari. Yeah, that was the Caserio era, my friend. That was his second draft pick ever. It was the same one as Derek Stingley. So no, you can't blame. You can blame BOB for a lot. The two offensive linemen that came in the BOB era were Titus Howard and Laramie Tunsil. Those were BOB. Kenyon Green was Nick Caserio. But I don't see how you can say with a straight face that wide receiver would be cute. That's crazy to me. I mean, if you told me that there was going to be an elite wide receiver or an elite offensive lineman, I'm taking Justin Jefferson. And we've seen him go in the 20s. Like, if you told me they could get like a Justin Jefferson or they could get, I don't know, Penei Sewell, I'll take Justin Jefferson. We can figure out what to do at tackle. Maybe we can do that in the second round. But it's obviously based on what is available and what the draft has. It's not that simple, but there's no cute scenario that we've thrown out there. The best secondary in the league, a wide receiver, and perhaps a tight end that helps two needs. I've seen a lot of coaches say that tight end is the second most important position in their offense. I know Sarkisian said it. I'm sure Nick Caley might think it as well. But there's nothing cute. Like, it's not like, hey, let's go get the offensive lineman so we can be in the trenches. No. Nothing cute. Nothing cute about an O-lineman. Can't do that. The RB would be cute. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with having as many RBs as possible. And they're kind of in no man's land, but I do wonder if maybe there's a team like on the front end of the second round that wants to trade in to the first round for a running back. Maybe a luxury back or something like that. Like maybe they like one of the Ohio State guys. Maybe Hampton falls back and they like him. Maybe that could be another trade back opportunity for the Texans. And then essentially, maybe you can take one if you have 2 second-round picks instead of just one. Maybe that makes a little bit more sense. Could we see the Texans getting multiple seconds for the second straight year? And maybe we started out talking about the quarterback, which, man, you get so much more when teams are trading up for the quarterback. Because say it with me, QBs make fools of us all, and they make you do desperate things. They make you do desperate things. They'll make you give the highest amount of guaranteed money to someone with 35, whatever the hell it was, alleged cases against him. They'll make you trade multiple drafts to trade up and draft this guy. Quarterbacks are crazy. But running backs, we saw kind of the resurgence of the running back. It is a copycat league. We always hear that. It's a copycat league. Maybe some guys, some GMs see these running backs. It's hard not to fall in love with these running backs. My God, they were impressive at the combine. Do you perhaps trade up and get one? Could the Texans be sitting in a money spot there? Chip Kelly, he liked what Henderson did for him at Ohio State. He knows his system. Just won a national championship with him. You don't pay Chip Kelly $7 million to run an offense and not give him some sort of say in what kind of players they select. What if he kind of is having the vision of Jahmyr Gibbs, Chip Kelly? Raiders sitting there on the front end of that second round. What if Chip Kelly decides that he wants to go up there and get him a little Henderson? You trade back. All of a sudden you got 3 day 2 picks, maybe 4, depending on what they trade. Maybe you get their second and third. Maybe now you're sitting there with 4 day 2 picks, 8 draft picks. Now, maybe you're sitting there with that. Could be a lot worse. Could be a lot worse. This is a tough one right here from H-Town Red. We're about to transition into free agent mode, but I think this is a good hypothetical. If Golden or Ibuka not there at pick 25, would you want to trade up or trade back? I think Golden ran his way out of even being there at 25, which I'm okay with. By the way, I'm the biggest Texas fan in the world. It's in my blood. A Longhorn onesie was thrown on me as soon as I was born. My parents met when they were students there. I was born in Austin. Road trips with my pops are bonding experiences. My mom still loves it. I've been to multiple national championships, road trips, all that type of thing. A lot of my energy is Texas Longhorn football. Is it not weird to you that this draft was the combine, if you watched it, was just a complete and total slob fest over Texas's offense? You had 2 wide receivers running awesome times. You had a running back that ran one of the fastest times. You had a quarterback out there throwing against air that was getting all this praise. Multiple offensive linemen. The tight end was on display as well. He hurt his ankle running. Steve Sarkisian was just sitting there getting bopped on as like the best offensive mind in the world. And they were 20th. They were 20th in total offense and 29th in scoring offense last year. You got to explain that to me. Oh, by the way, not even in the top 100 in red zone offense this past season, and 90th the year before, and twice your season ended with red zone trips, heartbreaking red zone trips. And Steve Sarkisian's getting bopped on? I don't understand that. I don't understand that. And I said all that to say Golden is more of a Coug than he is a Longhorn. I'm not a Cougs football fan. I'm a Texas football fan. Golden spent more time at U of H than he did Texas. Isaiah Bond's an Alabama football player. Let's cut that out. And that's another sign of Sarkisian kind of having the new rules of the game kind of shifted in his favor. You lose two guys in the first two rounds at wide receiver, and then you just go get U of H's and Alabama's, and Oregon State's best receivers. Give me a top 90 red zone offense before we start bobbing on dudes. That's pathetic. That's pathetic. Where did Brandon Ayuk come from? What are we trading for Brandon Ayuk? What are the Texans? What is the price for Brandon Ayuk? They're now saying that Brandon Ayuk's available. What was the price be for Brandon Ayuk? Third? I'd throw a third for Brandon Ayuk. I like his game like that. I don't know if they like it that much. Debo was a fifth. They got two damn good receivers in San Francisco. Jennings might be their best overall guy. We already saw how CJ felt about Pearsall, first round guy. Ayuk for a third, baby. You already got the contract. Wouldn't be opposed to that. They did. Diana Rossini, I think, said that they're open to trading both. That'd be a hell of a turnaround. You go from all that drama with Debo a few years ago just to trade him a few years down the line after he never lives up to really that contract. That never happened. And then you trade Ayuk shortly after that. That would be wild. Bradley says Bond is going to be a steal in the second or third. Steal, you think? I like him. I don't know if he's a steal. That seems probably appropriate in this draft. Like, define steal. Like, you think he's like a for sure solid top two guy, like wide receiver 2, Bond? There's going to be some guys that emerge as that. It's just not as clear right now. But, I mean, saying that Bond would be a steal in the second or third is, to me, and I'm not trying to put words or letters in your typing, words in your mouth or letters in your typing, Bradley, but to me, that means that you think that he would ever even have been considered in the first. Like, second or third to me seems, more than appropriate. I could easily see him falling to day 3. I could see him being one of those top players available heading into day 3. I think ideally he's probably a third rounder. Maybe. He ran good enough. He didn't run as good as he said he was going to. But I don't think he's a steal. I wouldn't go that far. Fifth Ward's trying to go Keenan Allen, man. Trying to go Keenan Allen on him. Didn't you learn your lesson? They didn't get the deal done for Keenan Allen. Because they were trying to trade that next year's 4th round pick for old Keenan Allen. They're trying to do that with Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, if that's the price, sure. I don't know how desperate they are to trade Ayuk. But if that could happen, who knows? But yeah, I don't think Bond is a steal at all. Theo has a hell of a theory. This is something nobody's talking about. I'm not touching any 49ers. They're all system players. Shanahan is a genius. Now, I will say the way that they use Debo, and I always thought this was an interesting back and forth is, and I understood Debo's point of view and I understood their point of view. Debo said he didn't want to be a running back anymore. He only wanted to be a receiver, and he wanted to get paid like a receiver. But the reality is the reason you were one of the best football players in the league was because you were so good at both. And then when he became pretty much more just a receiver when they got McCaffrey, We haven't seen him break 1,000 yards. Not the greatest route runner. Still a good weapon, but I think you can make a case. I don't want to call him a system guy. He's a good football player. And when he's at his best, he looks like the fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy running with a chainsaw with how violent he runs. But yeah, I think that the way that Shanahan used him, it's hard to argue that didn't help a little bit. I don't know about Ayuk, though. The Ayuk thing's a little bit different. I think Ayuk is a little bit more of a pure receiver. And I think that Ayuk could actually fit into what the Texans system is, especially like opposite of Nico Collins. I don't know what that price is. I'm not giving up a second. Third, maybe. If it's a day 3 pick, yes. And he's still pretty young. But I could see the Debo. I don't know about the Ayuk. Crazy thing about Ayuk too. Ayuk was recruited to Alabama to be a safety. He's always been pissed about that. But Ayuk was recruited by Saban to be a safety, which is crazy when you think about it. You know what else is crazy? And I always bring this up whenever Ayuk comes up. But with how great the Eagles are, and I don't think any of us dispute how great the Eagles are, I'm always just fascinated by this draft, the 2020 draft, the COVID one, where Goodell was in the basement looking like a creep, where we look at this wide receiver run in the 20s. Man, what a draft this was. You imagine if Texans had 25 in this draft? But we look here at the wide receiver run, and Philadelphia starts it at 21 with Jalen Reagor. What a bust he was. And then you look at right after that, the guy who was just a slot receiver at LSU, Justin Jefferson, goes 22. And then you get Ayuk right there at 25. And then T. Higgins goes 33. Michael Pittman Jr. Like in that little stretch from 21 to 30 to 34, Philadelphia starts the run, and they take Jalen Reagor, and then you have Jefferson, Ayuk, T. Higgins, and Michael Pittman going right there. What a damn shame. And they're so good at drafting that they still have one of the best wide receiving cores in the league. They have the best roster in the league. And they've been able to just make do with what they've got. You can miss in the draft if you do everything else well. Philadelphia is a prime example. My God. Imagine sitting at 25 with an opportunity to get the next T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr. even, or Ayuk. And Philadelphia starts that run, and they took Jalen Reagor. That's crazy. And the reality is the Texans have had opportunities to make us forget about the Kenyon Green pick. They've just failed. Like the interior of the O-line, they haven't done that. Philadelphia in 5 years, whatever, 5 seasons, 4 seasons, 5, 6 seasons, whatever, something like that, half decade-ish. They made you forget about that because along the way, they've traded for A.J. Brown. They drafted Devontae Smith. They've developed one of the best offensive lines in the league. They got one of the best tight ends in the league. Their defense is good. Texans have done some good things, but the interior of the O-line, they really haven't been able to really mask that. That's what's crazy about it. With the way the draft can go. But who knows? We got free agency coming up. There's a lot of trade back opportunities. There's a lot of talk. We're going to put the draft talk on ice. And then we're going to be in free agency mode. Live streams next week. SNL at 4. We're going to get into kind of free agent mode, which not the deepest free agent class. You're going to have to hit in the middle if you're the Texans. I would hope that heading into this draft, whether it's a trade, whether it's a signing, that there's some resemblance of a better wide receiver room than what the Texans got. I hope they got like some idea of that. And maybe the offensive line looks a little bit different, because right now it's not a good situation. It's going to change though. And there's a long time for them to figure some stuff out. The one name that I keep hearing that I don't really get it. And I know his quarterback play's been ass. But why are people wanting to sign Darius Slayton, and what exactly is that price tag? Darius Slayton has been in the league for 6 seasons. And in those 6 seasons, he has 740, 751, 339, 724, 770, and 570, 173 yards. He's never had more than 800 yards in a season. He's got 21 touchdowns. Again, I know the quarterback play is bad, but I mean, Malik Neighbors looked pretty good this year. He wasn't just completely lost. Different caliber player, I get. But what is the appeal of signing Darius Slayton, and how much is that going to cost? That to me seems like just paying someone because he's a free agent. Do you think there's like some untapped potential with Darius Slayton? Like, what's the upside in Darius Slayton? I feel like we got a pretty good idea of what Darius Slayton is. I don't know what they're going to do at wide receiver. It seems like people have just believe that they're just going to sign Stephon Diggs. That doesn't really solve a lot either. There's a lot of question marks there. There's more question marks now with Stephon Diggs than there were last year. But I don't understand Darius Slayton at all. I don't get it. For what? Is he wide receiver 2? Like, do you feel good about that? I mean, he is better than, I think the best pushback to my soapbox ass rant that I just had would be, well, he's better than John Mechie and he's better than Xavier Hutchinson. Yeah. I think there's probably a lot of guys that are. You can sign, like, chances are if you sign someone, they're better than those two and what we've seen from them. I do wonder if we're going to do that again this year. Hutchinson, I get. 3rd year, day 3 pick, what's going on? Like, but are we doing the Mechie thing again? I know the local news folks would love that. Anytime John Mechie has like 3 catches in a preseason game, that's leading off the news. I love my local news guys. Shout out to Greg Bailey, Randy McElvoy, Jason Bristol. Love you guys. But damn, how much longer are we going to gas up this Mechie thing? We doing this again? We doing this? We going for 3? Did we watch last season? What are we doing here? Was he a victim of Bobby? I feel like Bobby gave him a lot of opportunities. I'm a Cooper Kupp guy. I'll take the Cooper Kupp thing. I see DeAndre Hopkins in the chat. No, thank you. We're good on that. Come on. We don't need that. DeAndre for what? It's funny how you see a lot of like guys who crapped on the organization want to come back. Amenahu would never come back. He's gassed himself up to hate it. But DeAndre Hopkins doesn't have a lot of options. He's going to be at Grace's taking pictures. He's going to take a picture of the stadium. We know how Nuke is. There's not going to be a ton of opportunity for Nuke. So bring home DeAndre Hopkins for what? You got to do that, do you? Like, there's a lot of love for Nuke. Do we need to bring him back, though? I'm not as big on that. I don't care if he wants to come home. He wants to come home because there's not a lot of options. Whatever. I mean, again, better than Mechie and better than Xavier Hutchinson. You really can't say much. That's all you got to say. Like, if you want to bring DeAndre Hopkins back and you hear me saying what I'm saying, or you want to bring back Stephon Diggs, like with where we're sitting right now, before free agency begins, before the draft, all you got to say is, well, he's better than Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie. I can't say much to disagree with you on that. There's not much I can say. There's not much pushback from me on that. We don't know who is or isn't going to be available. Some guys are going to be released. There's going to be opportunities. There's a lot of needs. There's whatever. That's really the pushback. He's better than what you got. There you go. They've got to address the wide receiver. You can't half-ass the wide receiver thing. It's very important. It's not getting cute. It's very, very important. Got to do it. Got to do it. Getting Devontae Adams stuff now. We're just throwing out any veteran. Was he not going to follow Aaron Rodgers? That was a hell of a run. They really turned back the clock with the Jets. Well, they did against the Texans. Odd. That was as good as it got for them. We'll see. We're transitioning into the next phase, free agency. Combine. Can they trade back? We got to see what Ibuka runs to at Ohio State's Pro Day. I think Golden, that dream is dead. Imawara, sign me up for blah, B-L-O-B, baby, Legion of Boom. So that's where we're at. We're transitioning into, we're going to go free agent versus rookie on SNL. If you haven't subscribed to SNL, do me a favor, subscribe on the YouTube channel, SNL, Landry Locker, Cody Stutz. Most of you already are, but be sure to subscribe to that, if you will. I'm going to end it with this tonight. I saw that Texans president, Mike Tomlin, he was on with Mark Vandermeer and John Harris today. I was just kind of scrolling through, minding my own business, and I'll be damned. I saw Mike Tomlin was on with my boy JH and my boy Vandy, two guys I saw at the combine. I love those guys. It's on the YouTube page if you want to check it out. Some of you don't even know what this guy looks like. Here's what he looks like. Right there. You can see him. He's right there. Looking classy right there. Looking at him. Look at John. Look at that. That's a game face. Vandy's ready to get into it. But yeah, Mike Tomlin, the president, was there. Just podium critic type stuff from him. Seems like a pretty decent guy. You have to have a certain level of full of crap to be a CEO or a team president. That's kind of my theory. You could immediately tell the second that Jack Easterby talked that the guy was a joke. And I never shied away, whether I was at the flagship or whether I was across the dinner table from him, of saying that he was just full of crap. It was very obvious. And the people in the building, they knew it. They were kind of happy that it was being kind of put out there. The Tomlin guy, the full of crap level was pretty low for someone with that position. I think it's obvious that the new stadium is a very strong possibility in 7 years. I would like to see him move it to the burbs, but he was all right. I would recommend checking it out. Interesting guy, has a weird kind of laugh, kind of goofy. It's not fake. It's an authentic goofy laugh, which I think is kind of endearing. But I thought he was pretty interesting, dude. It's not POS. Now, Cowan Hanna can fall for some things. The Jack Easterby thing. I see them still kind of friendly with people who are pretty mean to Bob McNair. Called him some pretty bad things. Now they deny it now, but the tape is out there. And they're still pretty buddy-buddy with him. Speaking of fake laughs. But I think they did a good job with this guy. I think this guy's a good thing. He's good. So yeah, go check it out. Figure out what y'all think about it. I think he seems like a good president. I don't think he's like an evil guy. I think he's just a guy that knows his business. Has a football background as well. Seems to appreciate that. Said he likes hip hop, country, nice little mix. I'm a fan of that mix. I enjoyed hearing from the guy. We know Cal and Hannah can get duped though. Maybe those days are gone though. Who knows? Seems like a good dude. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the video. Promo code YouTube 150. I'm gonna go play some casino games right now. I'm also gonna look at this. It's coming. I don't know what I'm gonna bet on draft night, but they got a lot of bets going on. This is a new game for me. Getting to bet on the combine and the draft. Absolutely love it. It'll be really, really interesting to see how this thing goes. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. On to free agency.
Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days. Opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.